Okay, good evening, everybody. We're going to get started this evening, calling our meeting to order at 6:34 p.m., beginning with the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, we're going to our next item is our recognitions each month. The board likes to recognize students whose contributions or achievements are outstanding, employees who go beyond the call of duty, or community members whose generosity is greatly appreciated. So this month we are pleased to recognize, firstly, the boys varsity soccer team, a member of which happens to be sitting at the table with us. So congratulations, Santino, and all of the guys on your team. They were runners up for sectional champions, correct? Yeah, so good job. We want to say congratulations and best wishes to Mrs. Tracy Stryker. She is retiring this month after 12 years of service with our school district. So we appreciate all of her time here and everything that she's brought to the district, and we certainly wish her a happy retirement. A couple of things that aren't in here, but I will mention is just a shout out to the DCPTA for the annual Halloween bash, which I heard was a success. And to Ms. Labarge, who I think is back there. I'm sure you had the same experience that I did. I had a lot of parents telling me how excited and happy they were, and families to be able to watch their kids walk around the track in their costumes for Halloween this year. So that was really cool. And to our village residents and our fire department here in Delanson for hosting a safe and a place to get warm on Halloween on Friday night. So anybody else have anything that they wanted to say? Okay, all right. Next item is just a discussion of this evening's agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? Serena? No? Okay. Any questions or comments about this evening's agenda? Okay. Our first resolution of the evening, be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education approves the agenda for the regular meeting of this evening, November 4th, 2025. May I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Francis. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Sarah. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, next item is public comment. And I do have, yes, a couple of folks out there that said that they were interested in public comment. Great. So I will read our policy. I don't unless we have people that want to talk. So public comment section. The board encourages public participation, at board meetings during a specific portion of the agenda entitled Privilege of the Floor, public comment. Public comment section is not the time or place to register complaints about individuals or items that have not first been addressed through proper channels with those closest to the issue, such as a teacher, the building principal, the superintendent, or other appropriate party. Individuals making statements during Privilege of the Floor are expected to be courteous and respectful, modeling for our students how one can participate and have their voice heard in situations where there is agreement or disagreement with others' views. If members of the public have gone through proper channels and still wish to discuss a matter with the board, they can submit their comments in writing to the board clerk. At its discretion, the board may invite visitors to its meetings to participate in the board's discussion of matters on the agenda. The public comment section is an opportunity for residents and residents only to address the Board of Education. Should take place, only takes place in the portion of the agenda designated. Let's see, I don't think I have to say all the rest of that. Does not permit public session discussion, individual personnel or students. So to keep that in mind as well. And I think that's all I need to say. So is it Dana?
Let's work on a walkway. My name is Dana Misek, been a resident for over 26 years here, had 4 kids graduate through here. What I'd like to do tonight is I'd leave my personal information. I'd like to have a meeting to talk about the conditions of the grounds, not the construction part of the grounds. I understand that. Just the overall lack to detail, and I figured tonight would be a start for that. So I think that'd be the professional way to start. All right?
Surely. So, if you want, you could send an email to the Board of Education
Okay?
and Ms. Ross, and then we'll
Perfect.
start that process,
Perfect.
probably with a meeting with Ms. Ross, and we'll
Perfect.
go from there.
Good.
Does that work? Okay.
Excellent.
Great.
All right. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you so much.
Melissa, did you want to speak as well? Great.
So, Melissa Masick, I just kind of want to piggyback off of a little bit of what Dana was talking about, but my concerns are more with the inside of the building. Again, not construction. Kim, I know you and I met back in June. I did let you know that I had some concerns over the way that things were being maintained or lack thereof. In the over 26 years that I have been coming in and out of this school on the first day of school, whether it be for work or to bring my children, I have never been so disheartened by the way that our school looks on the inside. Just things, paint that doesn't match up, and we just say, just go through and patch it up, and it doesn't matter if it doesn't match. Baseboards, instead of liquid nailing them and getting them back together, we take painter's tape and just stick it to the wall. Holes, instead of being puttied, we just put clear tape over it. And for me as a parent and a community member, I have to sit back and go, where's that Eagle Pride? Where is that? It's not coming from the people that are supposed to be taking care of the inside of our building. And I'm not talking our custodian. He is doing the best he can with what he has to work with. But the absolute dust on top of our exhaust systems in our cafeteria where our kids are eating, and I look at that every day, and even in the gym over our closets, it's so thick. And that is the newest part of our building that we invite our families and community members into for all of our special events. And it's embarrassing. And I look at that and think, what happened? There used to be so much pride. You'd come in and the floors would be shiny and the walls would be clean. And I know there's a lot of construction going on, but that doesn't have anything to do with what's going on as far as our maintenance people and the job that's being done in there to make it look, to feel good when you come into your job, So I just wanted to, voice that, and hopefully something can move forward and get.
Myself and Mr. Weisberg will reach out to you again and we'll set up time to talk further.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Masick. We took this before a couple people came in a little bit later, so is there anyone else that had wanted to speak but didn't sign up? Okay, great. Thank you so much. Oh, okay. Our next item is that I get to give the ex officio student board members oath of office to our second student board member, Santino Bailey. It's here. Hold on. I have a lot of papers tonight. All right. I know, but I'm have to stand up, so I'd rather have it on the paper. All right, so Santino, I'm going to ask you to stand up with me.
All right.
All right, and you should have a paper of it as well. You're going to repeat it after me, so if you want to hold it so you know what I've said, that's okay as well. So,
Sure.
all right, so Santino, ask you to say, I do solemnly affirm that I will faithfully serve as the ex officio student board member of the Duanesburg Central School District Board of Education.
I do solemnly affirm that I will faithfully serve as the ex officio student board member of the Duanesburg Central School District Board of Education
In accordance with the Constitution of the United States,
in accordance with the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the policies of the Duanesburg Central School District.
and the policies of
Go ahead.
of the Duanesburg Central School District
To the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
I will fairly represent the interests and concerns
I will fairly represent the interests and concerns
of my fellow students
of my fellow students
with integrity, honesty, and dedication.
with integrity, honesty, and dedication.
I pledge to uphold the values of our school community,
I pledge to uphold the values of our school community,
to listen with an open mind,
to listen with an open mind,
and to contribute thoughtfully to discussions.
and to contribute thoughtfully to discussions.
I recognize the importance of my role in advising and informing the board
I recognize the importance of my role in advising and informing the board
on matters affecting students.
on matters affecting students.
I will strive to be a positive role model and a leader,
I will strive to be a positive role model and a leader,
setting an example of respect, responsibility, and civic engagement for my peers.
setting an example of respect, responsibility, and civil engagement for my peers.
I will perform my duties to the best of my ability,
I will perform my duties to the best of my ability,
always striving to enhance the educational experience for all.
always striving to enhance the educational experience for all.
Excellent. Thank you, and welcome, Santino. Okay. Next up, we have minutes, excuse me, from our last meeting. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education approves the minutes of the regular meeting on October 7th, 2025. May I have a motion? Thank you, Alyssa. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ray. Comments or questions about last meeting's minutes? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we have several presentations for everyone this evening, and we're going to start with our advisors, Kendra Shadina and Dana Kamer, about positive culture in our school.
So thank you all. So Dana and I are here just kind of give an update on what we're doing this year to really foster our positive Eagle pride. Go. There we go. So just a little reminder for anyone. So we are representing the Dignity Act, aka DASA. The shift has been towards Dignity Act just because of the stigma of DASA over the years. So New York State really has shifted to calling it Dignity Act over the DASA, but we will respond to both. But the goal always is to create that safe and supportive climate and really being able to focus on the education social development, where in the past students have had that fear of discrimination, being physically, verbally, and emotionally harassed. So ultimately, as dignity coordinators here, we are truly trying to create that positive school environment.
So as part of our efforts to promote a positive and safe school climate, we feel that it's important that our staff, students, and families share a common understanding of what bullying truly is. So bullying creates a hostile environment by conduct or threats, intimidation or abuse. It may cause emotional harm, physical injury, or interfere with students' educational performance. Bullying can be based on race, color, weight, national origin, ethnic group, religion, religious practice, disability, sexual orientation, gender, or sex. Many situations in schools involve conflict, teasing, or bothering, but not all meet the definition of bullying. As I will speak about later in our initiatives for the school year, making this distinction helps us respond appropriately and teaches students effective problem-solving skills.
So as Dana mentioned, there has been a shift over the years. So it's about the impact it is to the student. So some students have a little bit more impact to what others might say to them. So where some might be a dandelion and it doesn't affect them, whereas other students, what is said to them might take a little bit more elevate the concern and really shows that impact. So we did provide the data over the past couple years. So we did find last year we did have an increase in number of complaints. So there was 9 total. 3 of those came from the elementary school and 6 of them was from the high school. 4 were founded. So 1 in the elementary school and 3 in the high school. So that's just over the years. Now there might be pieces that we do address that are not formal DASA complaints. However, anything that comes to our concern that even if it isn't documented formally through DASA, we do address them, and we go through with different character education efforts based on the patterns that we see. So in this, right, so the process itself, so when we receive a complaint, we start the investigation within the first 24 hours. And part of that is we interview anyone who's involved, so the victim, the aggressor, any witnesses in the situation. We document all of that. And what we do is we end up looking through a lens. So in our DASA coordinator trainings, they gave us a very helpful tidbit of the impact on students. And we use that checklist to see, okay, is that a founded issue, or is it something that's unfounded and still should be addressed, but maybe not through that formal channels? So when it is founded, we do go to the administrator for that consequence. And if there is no consequence because it's unfounded, we still brainstorm, how can we address the situation? So those can vary. Sometimes it can be a counselor meeting, mediation, separation in classrooms, and along with the formal, can be a suspension, can be an after-school detention type of situation. So we do create a little variety in that depending on what the situation calls for.
So some of our initiatives for this year, ongoing trainings for DASA coordinators. All staff are trained at the beginning of the year as well. We have our Google site with resources and our streamlined form on our website. We have DASA presentations ongoing throughout the whole school, and specifically on bullying versus bothering, like I spoke about before. I will be doing a presentation on that starting next week with UPK through 5th grade. The elementary school, we are rolling out an SEL program called Fly 5 and continuing with our zones of regulation. Both of these programs are intended to enhance student well-being, strengthen positive behavior, improve self-regulation, emotional awareness, and social skills with our students. We are also introducing character ed for elementary and secondary students, which are essential life skills that help build healthy relationships, help manage conflicts, and contribute positively to their school environments. We are going to start in 3rd through 5th grade, focusing on empathy, communication, problem solving, respect, listening, and responsibility. And then in the middle school.
And then we're building on those same traits in the middle school and high school. So we're using those, but we're also, again, like I said, the pattern. So if we're starting to see like a conflict resolution issue, or we just recently went in, talked about what does it mean, like how can you be mean or rude? Like what are you doing for that, and how to fix it, and how to be more kind. That was one thing that we looked at specifically for 8th grade because that was a pattern we were seeing. So we are looking at trying to be timely with those pieces too, to really make it so that the grade level that we're pushing into, it's something that we're noticing, we're trying to address it so that way we can prevent for further situations from happening. So that's something that we're really trying to continuing to increase our programming, making sure that students are heard too, because they'll come in voice and be like, this is a situation that we're experiencing. How can we really help that? So that's something that overall, I will say the Google form has been really positive. I've heard a lot of positive feedback from community members about the ease of it. So that's kind of helped too for really getting our efforts across the board. But questions, comments, concerns, thoughts?
I know you don't have this information today, but I am curious, and so maybe you could just let us know in an email later about sort of how I presume that the number of incidents, the number of reports is commensurate with the population of a school district, right? So we had 9, we have 688 students. But I am wondering sort of how we are measuring up against other comparable districts, and just how this is going in general across our area. Anecdotally, it doesn't feel great out there. So certainly, at least not in my my professional position. But yeah, I would be interested in that information if you could get it.
Yeah, and when I recently did another DASA coordinator training, I did ask about the documentation piece, and sometimes the other schools, it's not like a formal documentation piece. As long as New York State basically says, as long as you are documenting what's happening in the school and you're addressing it, it might not fall under the same category as DASA. But Mrs. Ross might be able to get me that information in terms of what other schools are reporting.
I'll try, but I've never seen in all the access we have, like when we look at Tableau, It doesn't necessarily, it doesn't have, it doesn't report out what other schools. But I'll ask those questions if there is there a place that is public information? The state takes the SSEC report every year in July, and depending on how many SSEC, it's the old VEDA report, violations you have each year, they use that to gauge if you are a predominantly high-risk school when it comes to violence. So DAS is one of those indicators. That would be the only thing, but it doesn't, I'll see what I can find out.
I have a quick question. Do we practice restorative justice here at Duanesburg?
We
And what are they?
We do. It's just we don't. It's not advertised as, hey, this is restorative justice. But those mediation situations where it's not, you're not getting a punitive punishment, right? Like after school detention, suspensions are punitive. When we have those conversations with students, when we do conflict resolution, when we have students when they like if they broke something and they end up helping the teacher fix it. Those are those restorative practices that are typically what you would see. They're just not labeled that.
Right. Because a lot of times research has shown that if there is an environment where there are bullies, chances are the bullies themselves are suffering. And what sort of recourse do we follow up with identified bullies to make sure that they are okay? Because they're our students as well. Do we have an extended program to sort of hurdle help, not just the victim but the person who is engaging in the violence or the language or anything like that?
Yeah, and that I would say so in majority of these situations. Now I don't have the actual numbers for this, so bear with me on that. But majority of our situations, when we have a bullying situation, they are required to still meet with one of our counselors. So whether that's through like sometimes Dana would do a social group with students, or sometimes they meet with like Mr. Presson or Mr. Meckel, Mrs. Goebel. So we do try to follow up with those mental health concerns because, like you said, a lot of times there's a rooted behavior with that. So that's why we usually try to work really hard with that piece. It's not just always that punitive piece because we know punishments don't always work. That's when we usually see a repeat behavior if you're just constantly giving those punishments. So trying to balance that out and figure out, do you know how to treat others with kindness? Do you know the words to use?
Because also with lots of research that shows that if there's a restorative justice piece and there's a counseling of the bullies can actually turn around and become the student's biggest allies. And that's I think that's integral to creating and supporting a student-led sort of non-bullying act here. But it really starts with, I think, and studies have shown that it starts with also following up, supporting, making sure that individual is okay as well. And that's part of putting out the fire of destructive and distractive environments that is everywhere these days.
So true.
Any other questions? Okay, great. Thank you,
Well,
Ms.
thank you
Shadina.
all.
Thank you, Mrs. Kamer. Okay, I think I stole a little bit of his thunder, but Coach Simpson is here to talk about our athletic update for fall sports.
I don't even know how do I get this full? Is there a present button on this? Thanks. So it's kind of funny doing the fall athletics recap because we have a couple teams still going. The fall season is as quick as it is. Some of these sports are, for example, I'll talk about cross country. They're going to be probably running in the snow here shortly, but we're still going. And if you look at it, we have a total of 18 fall teams, which at a school our size is it's a lot. 7 modified, 4 JVs, 7 varsities, total of 141 students are playing athletics of some sort. I'll talk about the merged teams in a minute, and then Unfortunately, I can't put the scholar athlete teams up there yet because the first quarter hasn't ended. That ends this week, grades next week, so they'll be updated anyways when we get them, but typically, fingers crossed, just about all of them get it. Talk about the modified and JVs. We had the 7 total mods with boys soccer, girls soccer, 2 volleyball teams, which is good, boys and girls cross country, football. The 4 JV teams with the boys soccer, girls soccer, and volleyball, football. Out of those merged, I said I was going to talk about it. We got girls soccer that is merged, football is merged. We have cheer in there as well that I'll talk about. And I can sit up here and talk about the 18 different teams. We'll be here all night. But it's always impressive to me, the modified and JV age, just seeing the kids learn and the coaches taking that on to teach that. Because, winning's important, but bringing the kids back is also important. And I think our coaches did a great job with that. To talk about some of the squads, we had cheer with Burnox this year, 2 members, as you see them right there. And in their competition here the other day, it was this past Saturday, they finished runner-up with the rest of the section, which I thought was great. Varsity golf is the quickest season I think I've ever seen, which makes sense. But they finished 9-2. And looking at the squad, we had just enough. You have the 6 golfers with the 7 there. But going 9-2, their only losses were to the bigger schools, which sometimes you just outmatch. But you only have 1 senior in that group. So to have that level of competition and compete at the way they did with only 1 senior in a young group that's quite the accomplishment by them. 5 out of 7 players got first team all WAC, and 4 out of 7 qualified for sectionals. So and first year head coach Grady was amazing. He did a great job with such a young squad and the challenges that comes with a young squad.
Brett, do they do sectionals for golf in the spring? Or do they
So
did
the
they already do
states
it? Oh,
doesn't really
states are in
make
the
sense,
spring.
but it's
Okay.
what they do. So you compete all fall.
Right.
If you win sectionals, that's
Okay.
great. You're going to golf again in May.
Right. Okay.
So
That's what I thought.
that's just the way it goes. Weather and sunlight dictate it. But if you make it to the state level competition, it's in May. So it's in the spring. But the sport itself is just a fall sport. Yep. Our varsity girls soccer, we had 5 total students here that played. They finished 6-9-1. The only senior happened to be a Duanesburg senior, Harley Manis. And what was nice is, you see the record, but their JV team was dominant, and only having 1 senior, you only build from there. So they're very excited about their future. The varsity swim, we got 2 swimmers. Their sectionals, well, the prelims is Friday, sectionals are Saturday. Ella, as our 8th grader, amazingly has qualified for 3 sectional events. And Bridget, who, as we know, the O'Donnells, they're just a bunch of fish. They can swim. She qualified for 5 herself. And, we're not swimming just against small schools. This is merged with Mohan and Shalimar. They're Division II, but they're not just against the smaller schools. This is competition against these bigger schools. So they'll be at Shen Friday. If they do well Friday, which I'm assuming they will based on their times, they'll be competing for some championships on Saturday up at Shen. The boys cross country team. So the numbers weren't very high at the varsity level, so they couldn't score. So we couldn't put up a record for them. But one of the good things about the running sports is just because you don't have enough for per se a team, you still go to those events. You just can't be the winner as that. But when you get to WACs and sectionals, you can compete to win as an individual. You still compete for Duanesburg, but you can win. So at the WAC results, modified, Max came in 4th, Bradley 7th, Nate came in 7th at the varsity levels, and their sectionals is this Saturday up in Queensbury. And like I said, it's crazy, but if they do well, which we've had Nate go to states before, he'll be running the following weekend, probably be snowing, and it's crazy, but they always score very well when they get to these big competitions. So they'll be up in Queensbury along with our girls cross country. So kind of what happened there was with the record, we have a lot of dual sport athletes. It's kind of what just makes it work at a small school. So sometimes they had a full team, other time they had, you can probably talk, just Ari. So once again, could you score that day? Could you not? But at the WAC, with the modifieds, Tam came in 12th. Over the league, Lakeland came in first. She was a WAC All-Star. Molly in 12th as a WAC All-Star. Stella wasn't able to run, but she's always a high finisher when we get to sectionals. She was a WAC All-Star. And then last year at sectionals, they came in second. So we have high hopes for Saturday, and obviously we're pushing for first. They do a great job with it, but once again, they do well. They'll be running in states the next week. So that's this Saturday with the boys. They all compete up in Queensbury, different time races, but that information actually just went out on Parent Square, the tickets and everything, so that's out there for the community to see. Volleyball is still going as well. They finished 9-8 in the regular season. They earned a home sectional game, which happened to be on Halloween, and if you saw the Booster Club picture, a bunch of the soccer boys were there in their inflatable suits. Those inflatable suits tried to make it to the boys' sectional final. They did not work, but they did try. But they beat Argyle in 4 sets, 3-1, and they're heading up to Hudson Falls tomorrow. They got a 5 o'clock game against the #1 seed McKeel. They've had a very solid, it was up and down record-wise, but solid year. Anytime you make it to a semifinal or final, it's a great year. And that's another first-year head coach with Coach Herb. She's handled it extremely well. Then the last varsity team that we have is the boys soccer, who we already recognized. The way the WAC works, I told you there's 3 divisions, red, white, and blue. They were the white division champions. They reached the sectional final this past Saturday night. And from what I've heard, that was the 3rd time in school history that they made the sectional final. And on the run, they beat the 11-3 and #2 seed. And I asked a player today how many times Maple Hill has won it. That's their 27th sectional championship. So they just ran into a buzzsaw. But they played extremely well. The run was incredible. The community showed up for them that night. So they had an awesome, awesome run. And some hardware to bring back. So that'll be in the trophy cases here soon. And then for the first teams, Logan Evan made first team in the All-Stars, Jack Bryce and Andrew. Made second team with the overall record of 14-3-3. And that wraps up the varsity sides of it. We do have our fall sports gathering. It was supposed to be tomorrow night. Varsity girls are playing, so we bumped it to Thursday so we can all support the varsity girls up in Hudson Falls. So Thursday night we'll kind of wrap it up with the other sports still going, but winter sports start in 13 days, I think. 2 weeks from yesterday. So that's that.
Questions? Oh, Tony?
Good call. I don't know Brett, how much did they communicate with you? Okay.
No.
There were 7 competitors, one of them from Chalmont, so 6 kids. Brand new team. It's an incredibly individualized sport, and it is a sport that people with a lot of experience do better. So they were 7th out of 7 in their group, division, league. I haven't quite figured those words out yet. But it was a really exciting year, and it'll happen again in the spring. Yeah, and Steve Largetoe is hoping to make it so that more people can access it, because first time out it was tight. It was long days.
All right, any other questions? All right, thanks, Brett.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Congratulations, you two.
Thank you.
Over here, sitting at the table. Nobody's listening to me. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I'm talking to you, ex officio student members of the board. Congratulations. All right. And you're up.
Well, for student news, in a few days, the junior and senior class plan to go on a DC trip to Washington, D.C. And as you might know, the government right now is not, entirely functioning. So there was some concerns about the itinerary. A lot of the attractions that were originally planned were government funded, like a lot of museums, like the Smithsonian and everything. So thankfully, there's a new itinerary with a lot of alternative options so that people get their money's worth with that. So that was an issue nicely solved. And as Coach Simpson mentioned before, all the sports did very well this year. Volleyball in their semifinal, and for boys varsity soccer, it's second varsity final, or sectionals final in school history. which is, always nice. And I think Ari has some stuff to say too.
Yeah, so we wrapped up the fall sports season, and as far as student news, I get to be the one who says the not nice stuff. Santino gets to say all the nice stuff. Our sports teams did perform very well. However, we did have some challenging circumstances to contend with for transportation. And I know, did Simpson already leave? Simpson tried very hard. We appreciate him very much. But we did have a lot of issues with transportation to games and meets. We had lots of last minute cancellations, lots of coaches coming to find people to be like, our time has changed, we're leaving right now, which obviously is not ideal. We don't want to miss a bunch of instructional time, but a lot of that had to happen just to make sure we got to where we needed to be on time. So that was something that we were contending with throughout the fall sports season, trying our best to get power through it. But things happen. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was we had the PSATs. All of our juniors, some sophomores, some seniors did sit for the PSATs. It was rescheduled from its original test date because we had a bunch of internet issues with the original place they were taking the test, which again, it goes back to losing instructional time and just chaos, because I know many people were very nervous for that. It's a very stressful time, and to have that rescheduled and then have to reset and get ready to do well again is a stressful thing. So we have had some issues with that, and we also have still had issues with email whitelisting and getting sites whitelisted on our school devices. A lot of it ties back to perhaps maybe something with standard procedure, I think, because I think this has been mentioned of people don't really know where to go with it. So when you hear the grumblings and the mumblings and the concerns, you don't really know where to take it and where to go. So it just all kind of stews, and that can definitely create some tension with students being like, why isn't anybody doing anything about this when they haven't told anybody about this? But we're trying to be patient, and once again, it's unprecedented times, but we're trying to do the best we can. And I do appreciate everyone who is trying to resolve some of these issues, both with transportation, with technology, and all of that. So I'm pretty sure that's all we want to talk about. All right, thank you.
Can I ask you, Ari, where did you guys take the PSAT?
I don't know where they ended up taking it. They
Oh.
tried to take it at the church.
Okay.
It didn't work. They took it in Miss Heck's room. They took it in
Oh,
Miss Heck's room.
okay, so it was not like way off campus, but it was meant to be across
It
the
was
street?
meant to be across the street. They
Got
took
it.
them across the street. It didn't
Okay.
work, and then the next time they took it in Miss Heck's
Got it.
office.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Anybody have any questions for our student board members? Great job, you guys. Appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. Okay. In an unusual turn of events, I have a report. Is it on here, Jeff? Is it on here? My screen? Yeah, but I don't know which one is mine. Do I have to log in? I was really hoping that it would. Oh, okay. Where's that? Did somebody close everything? All right. Yeah, it's on my Google. It's on the Google Drive. Sorry. My Gmail? And then where's those little three buttons they said I could do? So this is actually your slideshow. Oh, I just hit slideshow. Oh, great. Okay, got it. Okay. You can pull that back up now, Declan. Thank you. All right, great. Okay. The reason I have a report is because we have been really busy as as a board, and also as myself and Kim. So I just wanted to tell everybody sort of what we've been up to. One of the things that I don't have a slide about is that if you were here at our September meeting, you may have heard from Lisa Paterni. She is the creator and the organizer of I'm Human 360, and she's been doing listening tours around the buildings, and she met with all of us as Board of Education members in small groups as well. So she's using all the feedback that she has gotten from those meetings, including some with us, which is great. Okay. Forgive the quality of these. These are photographs of my presentation that I got when I got to this training, because they didn't give it to us digitally, so this is just from the paper copy. But on the 17th of this past month, Kim and I attended the New York State School Board Association's Governance Leadership Program. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or 10 different districts represented with their superintendents and their board presidents. And it was a really great program. What we ended up focusing on was leadership styles. So Kim and I each took a leadership questionnaire prior to this and discovered what kind of leaders we tend to be. So I am interested, and so it's something that I'll bring to the board, and maybe we can talk about, not right now, because we've got a lot going on right now, but I think having this survey for all of us and doing a workshop with NISPA about this would be really useful to us. But it was really cool. I'm a psychologist, for those of you that don't know that about me, and so I get very excited about this sort of thing. So I was very excited about this. At any rate, we all got sort of categorized based on the way that we responded to the questionnaire, and you probably won't be surprised to find out that I was very strongly a mediate person. I'm a psychologist by trade, so that makes sense. And Kim was an engage leader, followed pretty closely by a mediate leader. So it was really cool. We went into our different groups with people that that their leadership styles were similar to ours, and we talked about the ways that our styles might create difficulty communicating with other styles, and then what we also can bring to the conversation, and how having a group with different types of styles really creates a dynamic way of leading. So it was really, really cool. I enjoyed it very much. I think Kim did as well. Let's see. Just, again, another example slide. But as we were sort of doing this, I was thinking in my mind about the people that I know and the people on our board and what style they might be. Telstire is faster paced and task oriented. Engage is fast paced as well, but a little bit more people oriented. Analyze is the person that asks a lot of questions and wants all of the information that's very detailed oriented. And then there's a mediate style who is a little bit slower, very people-oriented, very collaborative, that kind of thing. So it was a really interesting day. It was a whole day, and I think we learned a lot. And again, I may suggest that that's something that we do as a team moving forward. Oh yes, we lost power. That was exciting because we were in a room with no windows. So, but we just rolled with it. It was fine. Okay, so that was earlier in October, and then. Let's see, about a week and a half ago, almost 2 weeks ago, 3 of us from the board attended the NISPA Annual Convention and Educational Expo. Myself, Frances Spohr, Sarah Gwizdowski from the board, and then our superintendent, Kim Ross, and then our board clerk, Serena Killenberger, also went. So that was really, it was really great. So I thought today I would let you all know, my fellow board members, about the sessions that I went to. I won't take an hour, I promise, but so that you know what we did and what I'm bringing back from what I learned, and then I'm going to ask at our next 2 meetings that Frances and Sarah do the same for us. So, so I'm hoping we'll have a presentation from each of them in our upcoming meetings. Okay, so it's a 3-day conference. On Thursday, Frances and I both attended the Pre-Convention Board Officers Academy. The title of that this year, the focus was One Vision, Many Voices, and it was about resolving conflict and building consensus. So these are the sessions within that. It was all day. It was 9 to 4, I believe, 9 to 4:30, something like that. And I personally learned a lot here. Excuse me. I think I wrote down in bold some of the things that I took from it. One of the things was that conflict is a sign that people care very deeply. I knew that, but it was nice to hear it. It was good to hear it. And that conflict is not the enemy of progress. Ignoring conflict is the enemy of progress. Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate it. The other thing that I revisited, because I did this Officers Academy last year as well, is that high-performing school boards are associated with high-performing schools. So when school boards are working well and working well together and have a common vision, the district does better and the students do better in their academic achievement, in their social emotional growth, et cetera. So we're here sort of at this table talking about things at this sort of high level. But it really does matter, because when we're functioning well, students will function well also. And it's just good to know that. We talked a lot about building consensus and sort of understanding when you're building consensus that, so for instance, when you hear, excuse me, a board vote yes and everyone votes yes, that means that we've likely come to some consensus. It doesn't mean that we're rubber stamping. It means that everyone has agreed to move forward with whatever decision has been made. So it was a, excuse me, it was a really helpful day, and I think I'll bring a little bit more detail in our next board retreat, so that we can talk a little bit more about the things that we learned there. One of the other things that came from that, consensus, that's the other thing I wanted to say. They sort of boiled it down to 3 steps. I understand, I can accept, it may not have been my first choice, but I can accept what's being decided, and then I will support, right? So supporting might simply be that we don't say anything negative if we didn't really agree in the first place, right? But we come together and we make the decision. Or acknowledge that if I didn't initially agree, I can be supportive because I understand that we all came together with the same vision, with the same goals, and we came up with a decision together, right? So it was a good reminder for me and a really helpful meeting. We also talked about board self-evaluations, and I do intend to implement this year. So we evaluate our superintendent, and in so doing, we require her to evaluate herself. And within our school community, our administrators are evaluated by our superintendent, and they are asked to evaluate themselves. And we do evaluations, but we don't evaluate ourselves, or we haven't historically. And I think that we could benefit from taking some time and reflecting and considering what we're doing well and what we want to do better, right, moving forward. So again, something for you to look at later, but they discussed how we might go about a board self-evaluation. There are lots of tools. I'm not going to use SuperEval, I promise, don't worry. And so in that light, Francis and I intend to meet with each of you as individual board members. I'm hoping by the end of the calendar year. I'm going to do my best. It's a busy time, obviously, but Francis and I have agreed that after doing all of this, that we really want to spend just a little bit of time with each of you individually and sort of take our temperatures individually, and then that'll help us kind of carry on and move forward as well. All right, and then on Friday, oh my goodness, I went to the keynote session. This was Tim Shriver. Tim Shriver is Maria Shriver's son, and he joked that he sometimes has people tell him that he looks like a Kennedy, of course, because he is a Kennedy, but anyway. He discussed the concept of dignity versus contempt in the context of how we speak to each other. He's the co-developer of something called the Dignity Index. And again, reminder, I'm a psychologist, so this scale and talking about dignity spoke to me in a big way. So the Dignity Index, is a tool that they developed to score speech, to score communication along a continuum from contemptuous to dignified. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about it later because I did an extra session, but this intro was really great. I went to a do's and don'ts of executive session, which I always go to because I always need to be reminded what we can and can't do. We're going to be going into executive session later today. We talked a lot about what's permissible for executive session. It's very specific when we're really only allowed to go into a meeting for everyone else's awareness, right? And for specific things. Everything else we conduct in public, right? So reminding me so that I can then remind all of us how to manage that. What's permissible, what's not permissible, what we can talk about in email and what we can't, things like that. Making sure we protect people's confidentiality, etc. And then later in the day, I did the Dignity Index, a deeper dive. The woman that ran that, excuse me, works for the company that I think produces that scale. But it was a really powerful session. So I have a couple of slides. I totally lifted them from their slideshow, so I'm giving them credit where credit is due. But just an idea of the differences between contempt and dignity. That contempt is a feeling of disdain or disgust for another group, where we treat another as vile or worthless, right? That's at the lower end of the continuum. And dignity is the mutual recognition of the desire to be seen, heard, listened to, and treated fairly, to be recognized, understood, and to feel safe in the world. So the Dignity Index kind of puts these two things next to each other and helps us sort of understand and put some context around how we're communicating. So this is the Dignity Index. I have copies of it, so we can look at it together in our retreat as well. But it talks about, it gives you a way of taking a look at and interpreting what you say and how you say it. And again, I found it not only fascinating, but really eye-opening. And sometimes we don't even realize when there's contempt in our voices, especially when we're at the level 4. Oh, they don't really belong. They're not exactly one of us. It's still not a dignified way of treating another person. So this was a really, really great, of course you can get the index and they can come and do trainings and all the things, but which we probably won't do anytime soon. But it was really powerful and really interesting. So I'm happy to share more about that at our next retreat as well. I also went to, this was interesting, and I have a question for the board about this. I went to a workshop presented by these folks from Hampton Bays School District about it's a program they call Handle with Care. It's not like what Handle with Care used to be. I know, like Kim was like, ah! So it's not historical Handle with Care. It's now Handle with Care, and it is an approach and a program where law enforcement and schools work together to ensure that students are being cared for as best as possible when, particularly when an event may have happened in that child's home. So essentially what happens in this program is that if, and it's across, within the county, there are quite a few school districts. So if law enforcement were to respond to a household within a school district, that school district is notified, we went to a house, this address in your district. They don't know necessarily whether there's a student enrolled in school, but the school knows whether there's a student that's enrolled that comes from that household. And then it simply says Handle with Care. So there's no information about what happened. There's no breach of confidentiality. There's just a notification that, hey, there's some stuff going on for this student. And what was really, again, powerful to me was that, and I think we can probably all recognize that we've been there, it is, if I had only known, right, that there was something that just happened for this family or something was going on in their lives, I would have seen this situation differently. I would have understood this situation differently. And we're moving toward trauma informed. We'll talk about that later too, but we're moving towards trauma informed support for students, and so this is sort of a step in that direction. So the program, I believe we can get through Cornell Cooperative Extension. So something to think about, you don't have to answer right now, but it is free. And we do have an SRO, but we don't have something as specific as this. And it might be something that other districts in our area might be interested in as well. So I can look into it further if you guys want me to. Again, you can shoot me an email and let me know what you think, but it was pretty compelling. All right, and then Saturday morning was a student board representatives, more than just a mandate, about our student board representatives. Again, sort of a question or something to consider, that maybe we circle back to this in the spring, not right now, but excuse me, they were talking about having a district leadership council that included the superintendent, the board president, and student board representatives, as well as at least one of the principals, to kind of help identify who those student leaders are as they're kind of coming up, and providing them with opportunities to be leaders, and moving them in the direction of perhaps wanting to consider being on the board. So that was nice. It was not quite as exciting as the others, but it was good anyway. But something we might want to do is consider putting together a council that includes you two, right? As we think about moving forward, what are we looking for? What students do you see with leadership potential? Maybe not always the ones that are always doing all the things, right? But some of those that are maybe quiet leaders. How can we cultivate that? So that was an interesting thing. And then lastly, Francis and I think, might have been the only ones that were there for this one, but this one was just incredible. This is Steve Hartman. He's from CBS This Morning. He does the On the Road segment on Sunday mornings. He had his kids there. He had he did Kindness 101 during COVID with his kids. And then they got a job for CBS after that. They kept going. So I thought, just for fun, because it's less than 3 minutes long, this is a follow-up on one of the stories that he shared with us. And
At Wayfair,
it was just
the
really
holidays are here. and
amazing. So I will share it with you.
I know. Best friends stay best friends, no matter their differences or the passage of time. Steve Hartman has found.
Okay, so as you can probably imagine, he did 3 or 4 of these stories, and one of them he brought, there's a doctor from Baltimore who was doing work basically pro bono, and he brought him on stage to help him with his talk. But it really nicely dovetailed with the opening about dignity and respect, and how that really does come together with kindness. And compassion. And so not a dry eye in that entire auditorium for sure. But it was a really good conference, and I appreciate the district's willingness to send us. I have a good time. I love to learn, so conferences are really fun for me. But I'm really also looking forward to hearing from Sarah and Francis, and Serena if she wants to, although I don't know if she wants to, about their experience as well. So that's all I got. Do you guys have any questions for me? All right.
Melissa, just so you know, I was able to rip the whole video of Steve Hartman.
I wanted to say, yeah, we're going to watch it in our retreat, so bring some tissues.
Yeah. I shouldn't say I did it. I had a little help from IT. And Elf helped me get the video.
All right. Next, we have superintendent's report.
I'll be brief because I know we have a lot of presentations tonight. Just a couple things. We are going to be joining districts in Schoharie County on Monday for a regional professional development day. Usually those days, years ago, it used to be hosted here at Duanesburg when they worked on the essential ed. But with our construction, we've moved over to Cobleskill Golding Middle School. This PD day is for teaching staff and teaching assistants. Other staff are going to stay back, and they're going to continue the work with Dr. Paterni. and some other things that their building principals will have assigned to them. The PD Day is going to wrap around MTSS, which replaced RTI several years ago because it pulls in that social emotional component. We have a world-renowned speaker, Allie Hearn, flying in. She's actually quite reasonable. And she's a social worker by trade. I'm getting my water. Sure, you're fine. And then Meredith Madden as well. And then there'll be some breakout sessions, smaller group sessions for folks to sign up for. So that will be on Monday. CJ is going to be updating you all on the capital project, but I just want to let you know the upcoming vote and budget hearing. Met with Tricia today again, and she created a new link on her website to update the community on the capital project. I was looking at another district's website, and I liked the format of more of a bulleted with a Q&A, because I think research has shown that as humans, we like grocery lists versus reading an essay. So she was going to update that, some really quick links. A postcard is going to be, going to print tomorrow to be mailed to the community, but we are going to have a tour. December 2nd is the hearing. We're going to have a tour at 5 o'clock. Anyone in the community is welcome to join to see the progress of what's happening here and talk about the next leg of this project. And then we did add today, we're going to do a virtual information meeting the day before. Lots of times, folks' schedules, there's conflicts. So on Monday, December 1st, it will be in the postcard on the website that will be a link. Anyone within the community can join and ask questions. And CJ will be joining us for that virtual, yeah, as well as our architect, Drew, will be on the virtual meeting, and Jeff, and kind of walk through any questions that folks may have and who can't come to the budget hearing or the tour. So that's going to go out. Other than that, the only thing I have is something personal. I am happy to say that that's okay. Very excited. As of this weekend, my partner and I are official residents of the Duanesburg community. We may be living out of boxes, but we have a bed and a coffee pot. That's all you need in the world. He's over there right now trying to hook up a TV. But we're excited to be here. And I know this isn't necessarily the superintendent's report, but the conversations Brian and I have had is that my early career was teaching in the community that I grew up with. My children went to Cobleskill. I graduated from Cobleskill. They graduated. And even though my travels professionally have taken me to some really great places, there was always a feeling of disconnect. And I actually really missed walking through the grocery store and seeing students and families and catching up, and even if it, taking an hour to get through the grocery store for a gallon of milk. I haven't had that in my 4 other districts because I lived out of the community. So when I talk about coming to Duanesburg and the full circle and the final chapters of my career, it does feel like home. It feels like now we're rooted, begin our roots in the community, and don't be shy to say hi to me at Hannaford. That's it. Questions?
Yes, congratulations.
Welcome.
Yes. It was look at my list. I'm sorry. You should have kicked me under the table. All right, very good. Thank you, Kim. Yep, we're moving on. Do you have, sorry.
We had a bunch of other superintendents that lived in town. Yeah, Lou lived here, DeFilippo. Yeah, so you're joining a good group.
All right. Mr. Ivanberg, you're up.
It is. All right, we're good. Okay. So tonight you will see that the reserve fund report is on board docs. This is an annual reminder of our reserve funds. So we use our reserve funds to save for future projects, acquisitions, and other allowable sources. It is a mechanism that is legally for saving money and to finance all part of an infrastructure, equipment, and other requirements for the district, to provide a degree of financial stability especially in years when we could have budget challenges with the state's budget, with state aid, and to provide those budgetary options when we have to think about cuts instead of higher, raising taxes at a higher rate. So this is a list of all the reserve funds in summary here that you will see in the report. It also lists the amount that we have in each of one of the reserve funds. So one that we've talked about quite a bit recently is the Capital Reserve Fund, where we use that to fund phase one of the Centennial Project. It eliminated the need to borrow $6 million. And then the interest that was earned on that also eliminated the need to borrow another $400,000 for phase two. So it really allowed us to stretch our funding to make things a little bit easier for the Centennial Project. So that being said, we had established another one 2 years ago in 2024, another capital reserve fund. And this year, recently, we established a repair reserve fund report, or a repair reserve. So those two repair or reserve funds are actually established by the board at a certain dollar amount, and the capital reserve fund is actually established a certain number of years. So within 10 years, at a cap of $6 million is what the capital reserve fund was set for. So within 10 years, we would use, by 2034, we would use that capital reserve fund that was established in 2024. The repair reserve was capped at $300,000 and was also voted on not only by the board but also by the community at the budget for 25-26. Here's a list of the reserve funds that we do have. So you can see that there was a reserve for capital that was established for the Centennial, and you'll see that now we've transferred a lot of the money out. And at this point, it's dwindled down to almost nothing in order to fund and pay the bills for phase one. And then we had established some funds, found some funds in undesignated fund balance and put that into the reserve fund recently. And we also were able to save some money for repair reserve, which allows us to make repairs to our facilities. And a few of the other, so I won't summarize all of these because it is in the report for what their purposes are. But we were able to also fund recently at the end of the most recent budget year, the TRS fund. So because we had a good budget year and those unexpected funds that did come to us last year, it definitely helped us to be able to save for years that could be difficult in the future. And then this is just a look at what the most of the funds are in the capital reserve. Accounts for almost about half of the reserve funds that we do have. But also some of those other funds, such as the retirement funds, you can actually see that retirement rate can go up and down and fluctuates a lot. So saving for the TRS and the ERS funds, it definitely helps the district to be able to plan and not have to increase taxes when those rates do fluctuate, because it's not something that we can control. And there's some resources here, and there's also listed right on the report. There's some resources here, resources on the report that you'll find online. And that is it.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. Anybody
You're
have any
welcome.
questions for Jeff?
Question. Jeff, you said something about undesignated funds you found ended up where?
Yep. So when we finished the year, we had undesignated fund balance that we were able to fund the reserve funds with because we had more than 4%.
So
So
we
we
had,
were able-
from what our budget was, we still had more than
Correct.
4% from what we budgeted for. So then we
Mhm.
took that money and put it into one of these reserve funds.
That's correct.
Which reserve fund did we put it into?
That was in the TRS and in the capital reserve and the repair reserve.
So we split the sum total between those two reserve funds?
Between the three, that's correct.
Oh, three. Okay, thank you.
Yep. And that was actually at the, I believe it was at the August meeting. Is
Yeah,
that
it was pretty
correct?
recent.
Is it yeah, it was either August or September.
Just to clarify, the TRS is the retirement?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes. So they came out with that allowance. In 2019, we were allowed to establish a sub-fund, the TRS reserve fund, in addition to the ERS. So the TRS is a fairly new fund for everyone.
Can you explain the difference between retirement contributions and the TRS retirement accounts?
So ERS is for anyone employed non-teacher, and then TRS is for teacher retirement system. So ERS is employment retirement system, TRS is teacher retirement system.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Jeff.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Okay, it's our last presentation. CJ, welcome for our capital project update.
Hi,
Are you
everybody.
going to talk about roofs?
Actually, not a lot of roofs kind of going on. There's only a couple. So I believe in your board docs. You guys have seen or at least received a copy of this. I'm not going to read through our paragraph of description. I'm just going to kind of talk through that. Some of the things by area, we're expecting in the next couple of weeks that the bulk of what we're still waiting for to go back into third grade classrooms we're going to have before Thanksgiving. Right now we've set with the school district that 12-2, we're going to take back 3 of those classrooms in the third grade wing, and we're going to go back at getting those things completed. Whiteboards going up, floors going in, bathrooms completed, tile installation. We're expecting that by 12-5, 12-8-ish, we will have received the casework for the classrooms as well. So we're trying to time that so that we don't have to have people be inconvenienced for a second time to come back out of those rooms so that we can do that. And then once we complete those 3 rooms, we're gonna do a kind of what I call a shift, which is kids will move out and then move into those, and then we'll do the next 3 rooms. And as part of that, there are 2 half classroom size rooms that are in that same hallway. We're doing one of those at a time as part of those shifts. So I'm really excited to see that we will have things where we can complete work in classrooms. Yes.
I just don't want to forget to ask this. How long do you think any individual class will be displaced?
We're looking at from 12-2 to after the break for the first 3, and then it's going to be about the same amount of time after that.
So like
It's about 4 to
2
6-ish weeks.
2.5 weeks.
Yeah, oh,
for the
sorry, that's
first
not right.
one. Yeah,
It's
for
about,
each-
4-ish weeks
Okay.
by the time, but we also gain, I kept doing this wrong earlier because it's only Thursday is the Christmas and the New Year.
Right.
So I suspect we will only really gain 6 days out of those 2 weeks because most people are probably going to try to take Friday off.
Okay. But it sounds like about 3 weeks or so.
Yes.
Per
yeah.
per
So we're
class-
looking
per-
at, I would
per
say,
classroom.
4 to be safe
Yeah.
once we do the 3 that are outside of the break. And then again, we're looking to have all those pieces done so we can move people out, move people in. There will still be punch list items, touch-up paint, scuffs, things like that. But we're expecting that they will be, for the lion's share, the classrooms themselves will be done. There are a handful of things down that hallway that we can't complete. The floor itself in the hallway is probably about a 4-week process. So we had to defer that to the summer. Which also means there's, if you've been down the hallway, there's some larger open areas down the hallway. Those have casework and benches and things like that. We're waiting to do those so we can do the floor below them and then do that, and then finish up. So the bulk of that stuff will be done before we hit probably the tail end of January, but it'll be good progress. The same process is going to happen over at 106, 107, 108. Thankfully, those are already unoccupied, so once we get that stuff, we can start working in there as well. The kitchen cafeteria here, I don't know if anybody's looked through the windows down there. We finally were able to get a lot of the stuff in the kitchen itself underground. We've been really struggling with getting some information and finding some connection points between the grease trap where it is now and what was supposed to be an existing connection that was too high, that we tried to push outside as close to the building as we can. That was still too high. So now we're looking at going halfway down the path down here to get to the next sanitary manhole. So we're waiting on some information to finalize that. Once we get that, we can finish the rest of the below ground, and then they can continue on putting up walls, starting to tape and finish walls and all that exciting stuff. The bus garage, which I know is a very exciting topic for everybody here. The foundation and the slabs have all been poured. Everything is back together. All the temporary structural items we did to keep the building together in that time frame has all been removed. So all the breaks came back for concrete that was tested appropriate or higher. So they're in much better shape there. They have now demolished what was the existing spaces that were the offices and the meeting room and things like that. The addition on the outside is progressing, and a big step we had over the last couple of days between last week and this week was the electrical service. We were supposed to put a new meter on the outside of the building, which involved getting National Grid here, taking down the existing service, putting the siding up so that they could then mount the service back to it. That all happened within the 4 days that they were shooting for. And so now they're going to continue with siding around the building, finishing the roof. We're still waiting on some overhead doors for each of those larger openings, but they're expected in the month of December. So we're hoping we can get a lot of the outside of that buttoned up and get that whole thing completed sooner than later. I'm going to have some pictures at the end of this. Again, some of the challenge we've been having is we're still waiting on material items and then that underground piping that we talked about at the cafeteria. So a couple of small wins, or at least small wins for me, was earlier in October, we were able to get the BenQ boards in. There was no real reason to wait to put those up for classrooms. We knew the teachers were needing them. So those went in around the Indigenous Peoples holiday there. So this is your current kitchen area in the high school. So it was a considerable amount of work to get everything from what was the backside of that wall really turned 90 degrees. It looks way worse than it is. Every project always looks like this, I promise. But you can see the impact of everything. I mean, every drain underground, piping through the ground, electrical items through the ground, and then they have to be backfilled, compacted, tested, and all that fun stuff. So even with all those checks, there will inevitably be some sort of issue somewhere in this process again, and we'll continue to work through those issues as we go.
Students, I feel that you should share these photos with your colleagues. Now you know why we're not eating in the
surprise.
And now you know
So
we have an archaeological dig happening in our cafeteria area.
The nice thing that's been happening is there are other things that can be done in the cafeteria that have been being done as far as we can go. A lot of the duct work that's been in the cafeteria itself, not the kitchen sections, that's been put up. A lot of the heating piping, plumbing piping, domestic water, electrical circuits that could go in have been installed. We're finding less and less things that are issues with the building in this particular section. Sorry, I didn't want to be too much of it out loud. But, we're hoping that as we get all the materials, get through the floor, we can start to catch up now and gain some speed and get through those items. Now you're looking at what was the foundation pour. So I don't know if everybody remembered the pictures of the contractor grabbing the foundation, crumpling it in his hand. That whole section that was exposed along the front and to the corners of each of the sections here where the front is, those were all stripped out, the foundations were checked, the foundations were in good shape, they were suitable to put foundations back on. We installed foundations, then they came back and then poured the interior slab. So, sorry, I'll take a step back. They poured the foundation. We took samples of that to test it for structural integrity, make sure it hit compressive strength. They poured the floor, samples of that again, same process, making sure it gets to its strength. And then you'll see here the outside with the rebar. That was all poured, again, samples taken again. So we don't necessarily take samples of every truck or a couple of truck, but depends on the pour. But we typically, every time we pour, we take samples so that we can make sure that it's hitting the right strength or things like that. And then you can see sheathing on the outside of the building so that they can install insulated metal panels. And then on the mezzanine area, they've been working through getting the new boiler installed, all the duct work. They're moving the IT server up there, things like that. And then that's a picture of some of your panels. The mezzanine is, if you were to walk into the bus garage through the main door, it is the ceiling above you. It's as fancy as a bus garage gets. Oddly enough, there was an office up there. There is not going to be one after this. And then again, just some more pictures of them working through the foundations, the insulation going on the outside of the foundations, the rebar sticking up that basically ties in with the floor on the inside and on the outside. You're looking at addition framing of the new area, the addition. So I think a couple of things I just want to add. You mentioned students. If there are students that are interested, or if there are people that want to learn more or see pieces of this, I do that stuff all the time. I'm happy to do that if there's a handful or a tour that wants to be done. It's things that we'd probably do after school. It's probably a little bit better that way. Also, I don't like to do it when they're actually working because there's just too much stuff happening. But those are things we're happy to talk about, or if we can help in any way, we're happy to do. Any questions for me?
This just kind of occurred to me. If you're talking about in that third grade wing, emptying the kids out, putting in the flooring and the painting and all that stuff, putting them back in,
Mm-hmm.
modern materials that are used in education building, do they outcast? Is that something that we need to build into the timeline?
So the nice thing is that everything is low or no VOC, okay? The bad thing is I have yet to find a material that doesn't have a smell. I have never been on a project where somebody hasn't ultimately, it's not that they're complaining, it's that everything has a smell. A big thing typically, Francis, is when we do roofing, everything is low or no VOC. I mean, it's all printed on it. We have all that information in the MSDS sheets. You smell it. There's no question you smell it. And there's no amount of here's information that necessarily will help in that it still smells bad. So the answer to that is everything is low or no VOC. Even paints are no VOC, but they all have a smell. So again, if we're finding things that are affecting education, right? We don't want to have to create a bad space. If those things are starting to happen, then that's a different conversation to have, which has happened on this project. We were doing some roofing over at the elementary school. It was really loud that day, or it was the 17th day of it being too loud and people finally had enough. That's totally understandable. Kim called me that day and said, hey, you got to stop these guys. We can't take another day. I think that was a Thursday. They stopped, didn't go Friday, finished up a couple of things on the weekend, came back and started again. You know, that's ideally the mentality that people should have. It isn't always like that, unfortunately, but everybody knows that we're here working in a school and we're working during the day and school's happening.
Any other questions for CJ?
So just in case, I have to, just in case anybody's confused, it's not the third grade wing.
Oh, thank you. I'm so sorry.
It's the 300 wing.
It's 300
that was the compromise of not renumbering
sorry.
the system.
Yes. And you have told me that repeatedly.
It's
and
okay.
I'm so sorry.
I just know that some folks who may not know, it's now the first and second grade wing, like, wait, the third grade wing? But third graders on the other side of the building, so it's the 300 wing.
And when my wife taught in that wing, it was the fourth grade wing. It was
Right.
actually the third and fourth grade
Right.
wing, I think.
So it's just the 300 wing.
300 wing.
You got it.
I will blame Henry when I see him for writing that and me repeating it. I'm just kidding. It's my fault.
Oh.
Yep.
I'd like to thank Shelmont for allowing us to bring our buses down into their garage. So Jeremy's been driving buses down to Shelmont, and they've been very helpful to allow us to use a bay when he needs to use one. There have been a couple times when he can't drive the bus and he has to do repairs in the parking lot, but it's been interesting, and so yesterday he had to take one of the trucks down to Shelmont and they also been using his tire machine and all that too down there. So yeah.
So I didn't see in a report, are we paying them? Or how is this working when we are bringing our buses to Shelmont?
So we're not paying them. They didn't ask us for anything, and they're helping their neighbors.
That's great.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah.
Cupcakes, sure, I can do that. All right, excellent. Thank you, CJ.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Do you want this off, moved back over there, or just want me to go?
You can go home. You don't have to stay any longer. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Next up, we have some board actions. First set are financial. So be it resolved, based upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education approves, financial items 11.01 through 11.07. May I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Francis. A second? Thank you, Michael. Comments or questions about any of the financial items? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Next, we have our instructional personnel. Again, be it resolved, based upon the recommendation of the superintendent, that the Board of Education hereby accept approve instructional personnel items 12.01 through 12.03. May I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Tony. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ray. Comments or questions about instructional personnel?
I'd just like to welcome our new art teacher to the district. That was a nice, quick replacement. Well done.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Next are our non-instructional personnel. Be it resolved, based upon the recommendation of the superintendent, that the Board of Education approve non-instructional personnel items 13.01 through 13.05. May I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Alyssa. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tony. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Excuse me. Next item is CSE and CPSE minutes. Be it resolved, based upon the recommendation of the superintendent, that the Board of Education approves the CSE and CPSE minutes from the meetings on October 3rd, 7th, 8th, 14th, 15th, 17th, 20th, 21st, 22nd, and 27th of 2025. May I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Sarah. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Francis. Comments or questions? A lot of meetings. Thank you.
A lot of meetings. Thank you.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, other. We have the approval of the tip-off basketball tournament. Be it resolved, based upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education approves the tip-off basketball tourney that will take place on November 28th and November 29th, 2025. May I have a motion? Thank you, Tony. A second, Sarah? Thank you, Sarah. Comments or questions? Just a reminder, we heard from Coach Simpson about this at our last meeting, so. All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that's our last action item. Just want to call to everyone's attention that we were going to have our December meeting at the elementary school because we're going to do a meeting each year at the elementary school. But because of all of the things that CJ just reported to us, we're not going to do it on Tuesday, December 2nd. So our Tuesday, December 2nd meeting will be held here instead of at the elementary school, in part because of the construction, but also because we will also be having the public hearing for phase 3 of the capital project during that time. So we'll start that at 6 o'clock. And then there's the tour that day at 5:30. I'm sorry, at 5, if anyone would like to come and take a tour of what that capital project will look like. So 5 o'clock for the tour, 6 o'clock for the public hearing, and then our regular board meeting will be here at 6:30. There is and Tuesday, March 3rd. Oh, yes. Okay, because, right. So Tuesday, March 3rd, our board meeting, we'll remind you again in a few months, will be moved to room 118 because this room will be used for the high school musical. Okay. Next, the board will be entering into executive session. I will do a motion for that momentarily, but just letting everyone else know that is out there. Thank you so much for being here. We do not intend to come back to open session, so have a lovely evening. Happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see y'all next month. May I have a motion, please, to enter into executive session to discuss matters leading to the discipline of a particular employee, as well as contract negotiations?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Francis. A second?
I'll second.
Oh, Michael. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. All right. 8:00.
Thank you all.